The cargo ship moved slowly through the darkness of space. Its name was the Defiant Hope, and it was not a pretty sight. The hull had scratches and dents from years of flying between planets. Inside the small cockpit, Minho sat in his pilot chair watching the stars drift by. He was tired. Very tired. The journey from Earth to the Kepler 442 station had taken 3 weeks, and he had only slept a few hours each night. But the payment for delivering medical supplies would be good. Good enough to fix his ship and maybe buy some decent food. A voice broke the silence. It was Jiwon, his ship's computer. She had a personality which made long trips less lonely. We're approaching the station. Finally. I was getting bored watching you stare at nothing, Jiwon said. Minho smiled. Thanks for the company, Jiwon. Don't mention it, literally, don't mention it to anyone. I have a reputation to maintain. The Kepler 442 trading station appeared ahead. It was a massive structure floating in the void, covered with docking bays and blinking lights. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved around it like insects around a lamp. Minho had been here twice before. It was always busy, always loud, and always full of aliens who looked at humans like they were strange creatures. Humans were new to space. Only 20 years had passed since Earth joined the galaxy's community. Most alien species had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. They had big ships, powerful weapons, and ancient histories. Humans had enthusiasm and stubbornness. Sometimes that was enough. Minho docked the Defiant Hope in Bay 17. The magnetic clamps grabbed his ship with a loud clunk. He stood up, stretched his back, and walked to the cargo hold. The medical supplies were packed in sealed containers ready for delivery. I'll be back in an hour, he told Jiwon. Try not to get into trouble. When do I ever get into trouble? Would you like the list in alphabetical order or chronological order? Minho laughed and left the ship. The station's interior was exactly as he remembered. Crowded, noisy, and smelling like a mixture of fuel and alien food. Creatures of every kind walked, crawled, or floated through the corridors. Some had scales, some had fur, some had skin that changed colors. A few looked almost human, but most did not. Minho made his delivery quickly. The station's medical officer, a tall being with 4 arms, checked the containers and transferred the payment to his account. Minho thanked him and turned to leave. That was when he heard the shouting. In a side corridor, 3 large aliens surrounded 2 smaller ones. The large aliens wore black armor covered in spikes. They were Kroviks, members of a criminal group that controlled parts of the station. Everyone knew to avoid them. The 2 smaller aliens were Velcrons. They looked like reptiles that walked on 2 legs with greenish scales and intelligent eyes. One was a woman, the other a young man. They looked scared. You owe us money, one of the Kroviks growled. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. Protection money. Everyone pays, the Velcran woman held up her hands. Please, we paid last month. We have nothing left. Our business barely survives. Not our problem, the Krovik said. He reached for the weapon on his belt. Minho stopped walking. His brain told him to keep moving. His brain told him this was not his problem. His brain told him that getting involved with Kroviks was a terrible idea. But his heart said something different. Hey, Minho called out. He walked toward the group, trying to look more confident than he felt. Is there a problem here? The Kroviks turned to look at him. Their eyes narrowed. A human. This is not your concern. Walk away. I think it is my concern, Minho said. His hand moved slowly toward the small pulse weapon hidden under his jacket. These people said they already paid, so maybe you should be the ones walking away. The lead Krovik laughed. It was not a nice sound. Stupid human. You think you can threaten us? There are 3 of us and 1 of you. Minho smiled, though his heart was beating fast. Actually, there are 12 of us. The Krovik looked confused. What? 12 human soldiers. They're watching this conversation right now from various positions around the station. They have weapons aimed at you. Big weapons. If you hurt anyone here, you won't make it 3 steps. This was a complete lie. Minho was alone. But he said it with such confidence that the Kroviks hesitated. They looked around nervously, searching for hidden soldiers that did not exist. You're bluffing, the Krovik said, but his voice was less certain now. Minho pulled out his pulse weapon and aimed it at the floor, not at the Kroviks. He fired once. The energy blast made a bright flash and a loud sound. Everyone jumped. That was a warning shot, Minho said calmly. The next one won't be. Neither will the shots from my 11 friends. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave. Now. And you're going to forget about these people. Understood? The Kroviks looked at each other. They looked around the corridor again. They could not see any soldiers, but they also could not be sure. Humans were new to space, and nobody knew what they were capable of. Maybe this crazy human was telling the truth. This isn't over, the lead Krovik said, but he turned and walked away. The other two followed him. Minho waited until they disappeared around a corner. Then he let out a long breath and put his weapon away. His hands were shaking slightly. The Velcron woman stared at him. You saved us, why? We are strangers to you, Minho shrugged. Because it was the right thing to do. But you risked your life. For us? Yeah, well, I'm good at making bad decisions, Minho said with a small smile. Are you two okay? The young Velcron man nodded. His name was Tajun. We are fine. Thanks to you. I am sorry I doubted humans. My sister always said your kind were different. The woman stepped forward. Her name was Hyejin. I am deeply grateful. You have saved not just our lives, but our business. We cannot repay you properly right now, but please take this. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small crystal pendant. It was beautiful, shimmering with green and blue colors. This is a Velcron honor token, Hyejin explained. It means we owe you a debt. If you ever need help, find any Velcron and show them this. We pay our debts always. Minho took the pendant. It felt warm in his hand. Thank you. I hope I never need to use it, but I'll keep it safe. They talked for a few more minutes. Hyejin explained that she owned a small trading company. Times were hard, and criminals like the Kroviks made everything harder. But she was determined to survive and build something good. Finally, Minho said goodbye and returned to his ship. Jiwan was waiting for him. I heard a weapon discharge on the station sensors, Jiwan said. I told you not to get into trouble. I helped some people. That's not trouble. It is when those people were being threatened by armed criminals. You could have been killed. But I wasn't. Everything worked out. Jiwan was quiet for a moment. You're a good person, Minho. Sometimes I think you're too good for this galaxy. Minho sat down in his pilot chair and prepared the ship for departure. He looked at the crystal pendant one more time before putting it in his pocket. It was just a small token, a memory of a moment when he did something right. He had no idea that 15 years later, that small crystal would save his life and change the entire galaxy. The Defiant Hope undocked from the station and flew into the darkness, heading toward the next delivery, the next adventure, the next chance to do what was right. Behind him, Hyejin and Tajin watched his ship disappear into the stars. They would never forget the human who helped them when nobody else would, and one day they would have a chance to return the favor. 15 years passed like water flowing through fingers. Minho was no longer a young pilot trying to survive. He was now a respected captain with his own crew. The Defiant Hope had been rebuilt twice and upgraded many times. She was faster, stronger, and more reliable than ever before. Over the years, Minho had helped many people during his travels. A broken-down ship here, a hungry family there, a merchant being robbed somewhere else. He never asked for rewards. He just did what he thought was right. Some people called him crazy. Others called him a hero. Minho called himself a cargo pilot who sometimes made interesting choices. Jiwan, his AI companion, remained by his side through everything. She had learned to accept his habit of helping strangers, though she still complained about it regularly. The galaxy had changed too. Earth had become more powerful. Human technology improved rapidly, and the human fleet grew larger each year. Other species respected humans now, though some also feared them. Humans had proven they could fight when necessary, but they preferred trade and cooperation. But not everything had improved. The Krovik Syndicate, the criminal group Minho had encountered 15 years ago, had grown into something much worse. They called themselves the Krovik Dominion now. They had armies, warships, and control over dozens of star systems. They conquered planets, enslaved entire species, and destroyed anyone who resisted. Many species tried to stop them. All had failed. On a warm morning, Minho guided his ship toward the planet Arcturus Prime. A human colony called New Sol had been established there 10 years ago. The colony was successful, with farms, factories, and nearly 50,000 people living peaceful lives. Minho was delivering farming equipment and supplies. It was a routine job, nothing special. He expected to arrive, unload his cargo, get paid, and leave within a day. We're approaching orbit, G1 announced. Everything looks normal. The colony is sending us docking instructions. Good, Minho said. I'm looking forward to some real food. Space rations are getting old. You say that after every trip. Because it's true after every trip. The Defiant Hope entered orbit around Arcturus Prime. The planet looked beautiful from space, covered with blue oceans and green continents. Minho could see the lights of New Sol on the night side of the planet. Then everything changed. Warning alarms screamed throughout the ship. Ji-won's voice turned sharp and urgent. Minho, multiple hyperspace signatures detected. Big ones, very big ones, how many? Minho asked, his hands already moving over the controls. 200 ships, maybe more. They're coming out of hyperspace right on top of us. Space itself seemed to tear open. Massive warships appeared one after another, filling the orbit around Arcturus Prime. They were painted black and red, covered with weapons and armor. Minho recognized their design immediately. Krovic Dominion. This is impossible, Minho whispered. Why would they attack a human colony? We have a treaty with them. Apparently they changed their minds, Ji-won said. The colony defense fleet is launching. 15 ships against 200. This is going to be bad. The small human defense fleet moved to intercept the Krovic armada. They were brave but hopelessly outnumbered. Energy weapons lit up the darkness as the battle began. Within minutes, 3 human ships were destroyed. The others fought desperately, but they could not stop the Krovic advance. The largest Krovic battleship opened communications. A deep voice filled with arrogance spoke in the universal trade language. Attention, human colony New Sol. This planet now belongs to the Krovic Dominion. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. You have 10 minutes to decide. We need to get out of here, Ji-won said. We can't fight them. But Minho was not thinking about escape. He was thinking about the 50,000 people on the planet below. Families, children, people who came to this world hoping for a better life. Change course, Minho ordered. Take us down to the colony. Maximum speed, what? Minho, that's suicide. We need to run while we still can. There are people down there who need help. We can evacuate some of them. We can fit maybe 60 people on this ship. 60 out of 50,000. It won't make a difference. It will make a difference to those 60 people, Minho said firmly. Now take us down. Ji-won was silent for a moment. Then she said quietly, You're still the same person you were 15 years ago. Still making bad decisions to help people. I suppose that's why I stay with you. The Defiant Hope dove toward the planet's surface. Around them, the battle continued. More human ships exploded. The Krovic fleet moved into bombardment positions, preparing to attack the colony itself. Minho landed his ship near the colony's main evacuation center. People were running everywhere, panicking, trying to escape. He opened the cargo hold and started loading people aboard. Families with children, elderly people who needed help. Anyone who could reach the ship. That's all we can take, Ji-won warned. Any more and we won't be able to fly. Minho sealed the cargo hold and returned to the cockpit. Through the windows he could see fire falling from the sky as Krovic ships began their bombardment. He lifted off, pushing the engines as hard as he dared with so many people aboard. They almost made it. A Krovic interceptor appeared behind them, firing energy weapons. The shots hit the Defiant Hope's engines. Alarms screamed. The ship shuddered and began losing power. Engine 3 is down. Engine 2 is failing. We're losing power across all systems, Ji-won reported. I can't keep us flying much longer. Minho fought with the controls, trying to keep the ship stable. They managed to reach orbit again, but barely. The ship was dying around them. The interceptor is coming back for another pass, Ji-won said. We have no weapons, no shields, and no engines. We can't fight and we can't run. Then we broadcast a distress signal, Minho said. Send it on all frequencies. Maybe someone will hear it. Minho, the nearest human fleet is 3 days away. We don't have 3 days. We don't have 3 hours. Minho reached into his pocket. His fingers found something small and cold. The crystal pendant. The Velcran honor token that Heejin had given him 15 years ago. He had carried it with him all this time. A small reminder of a moment when he did something right. Add this to the distress signal, Minho said, holding up the pendant. Scan it and broadcast the image on all frequencies. A crystal pendant? Minho, I don't think this is the time for jewelry. Just do it, please. Ji-won scanned the pendant and added it to the distress signal. The message went out across space, a desperate call for help from a dying ship. The Krovic interceptor moved closer. preparing to finish them. Inside the cargo hold, the 60 colonists held each other, knowing their rescue had turned into their doom. Minho watched the interceptor approach. He thought about all the people he had helped over the years. He thought about Hyejin and Taijin, wondering if they were still alive, still running their trading company somewhere in the galaxy. He hoped they were happy. The interceptor locked weapons. Energy signatures built up, ready to fire the killing shot. And then space began to tear open again. Not with 200 ships this time. With 300. The distress signal traveled through space at the speed of light. It reached a Velcran merchant ship 12 light-years away within hours. The ship's communication officer, a young Velcran named Deho, was monitoring standard frequencies when the signal appeared on his screen. At first, he almost ignored it. Distress signals were common and most were handled by local authorities. But then he saw the image attached to the message. A crystal pendant shimmering with green and blue colors. A Velcran honor token. Deho's breath caught. Honor tokens were sacred in Velcran culture. They represented debts that must be paid, promises that could never be broken. Seeing one in a distress signal meant someone was calling in a life debt. He immediately contacted his captain, then checked the signal's origin. The name of the ship appeared on his screen. Defiant Hope. The captain's name was Minho. A human Deho searched the ship's database for any records about this token. What he found made him send another urgent message, this time to the highest levels of Velcran society. To someone very important, to Hyejin. Hyejin was no longer a struggling merchant. Over 15 years, she had built her small trading company into something impressive. She now led a coalition of independent trading guilds, representing thousands of merchants across dozens of systems. She was respected, powerful, and wealthy, but she had never forgotten the human who saved her life. When the message reached her, she was in a meeting with other guild leaders. She stopped mid-sentence when she saw the image of the honor token. Her token, the one she had given to Minho 15 years ago on Kepler 442 station. "The meeting is over," she announced. "I must leave immediately." The other guild leaders looked confused. Hyejin never left meetings early. She was always professional, always composed. What could be so urgent? One of them asked. Hyejin showed them the image of the honor token. 15 years ago, a human named Minho saved my life and my brother's life. He asked for nothing in return. I gave him this token, promising that if he ever needed help, the Velcran people would answer. He is calling for that help now. She accessed the distress signal's full contents. Her eyes widened as she read the details. New Sol colony. Krovic Dominion attack. Ship damaged. Engines failing. How many ships can we gather? She asked her assistant. For what purpose? To pay a debt. Her assistant checked the guild records. We can mobilize perhaps 60 merchant vessels within a few hours. Maybe 100 if we wait a day. That won't be enough, Hyejin said. She activated an ancient protocol. Something that had not been used in centuries. The Call of Honor debt. It would broadcast the honor token's image across all Velcran communication networks, alerting every Velcran in the galaxy that a sacred debt must be paid. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Velcran merchants across the galaxy saw the broadcast. They recognized the honor token. Many remembered stories about Hyejin and Taijin, how they had been saved by a human 15 years ago. Within minutes, hundreds of Velcran ships changed course, heading toward New Sol. But the response went far beyond the Velcrans. Word spread through the trading networks. The story of the human Captain Minho was known to many species. He was the trader who helped others without asking for payment. He defended the weak, rescued the stranded, and protected the innocent. Over 15 years, he had touched hundreds of lives. Now those he had helped learned he was in danger. The Pteryx, an insectoid species whose merchant convoy Minho had once protected from pirates, sent their entire trading fleet. 50 ships. The Quilani, an aquatic species whose colony ship Minho had helped repair when it broke down far from home, contributed their engineering vessels. 30 ships. The Havran, a warrior species that valued honor above all else, pledged their escort frigates. 40 ships commanded by warriors who respected Minho's courage. Even individual captains and small crews joined. A Zoltron captain whose daughter Minho had rescued from a crashed ship. A plenary doctor whose medical supplies Minho had delivered for free during a plague. A Corvan engineer whose station Minho had defended from raiders. They came from every direction, converging on New Sol. Merchant ships, cargo vessels, passenger liners, private yachts, and military escorts, over a dozen different species. 300 ships. Hyejin commanded the fleet from her heavy cruiser, the Det's Honor. Her brother Taejin stood beside her. He was now a decorated Velcran commander, respected throughout the fleet. All ships are ready, Taejin reported. We can jump to hyperspace on your command. Hyejin looked at the assembled fleet on her display. 300 ships from dozens of species all coming together because one human had shown kindness to strangers. This is extraordinary, she said quietly. I knew Minho was a good person, but I did not realize how many lives he had touched. He never sought recognition, Taejun said. He just did what he thought was right. That is why so many came when he called for help. Hyejin nodded. Then let us show him that kindness is never forgotten. All ships jump to hyperspace. Destination New Sol. Space tore open as 300 ships entered hyperspace simultaneously. They traveled faster than light, crossing vast distances in minutes. Their destination was clear. Their purpose was sacred. They were going to save Minho. Back at New Sol, Minho watched the Krovik interceptor prepare to fire. He had accepted his fate. He had saved 60 people. That was better than nothing. At least he had tried, Minho, Ji-won said suddenly. I'm detecting massive hyperspace signatures. Multiple ships are about to emerge from hyperspace. More Kroviks, Minho said tiredly. Of course. No, these signatures are different. Very different. Minho, I think someone heard our distress signal. Space began to tear open, not in one location but in hundreds. Ships emerged from hyperspace all around the battlefield. Velcran heavy cruisers, Terex merchant carriers, Quilani engineering vessels, Havran frigates. Dozens of other ships from species Minho recognized and some he did not. 300 ships appeared within seconds, forming a protective sphere around the Defiant Hope. The Krovik interceptor stopped. Its pilot must have been as shocked as Minho was. Then a voice filled every communication channel. A voice Minho had not heard in 15 years but recognized immediately. This is Hyejin of the Velcron Trading Coalition, the voice announced. 15 years ago, a human named Minho risked his life to save 2 Velcrans he did not know. He asked for nothing in return. Today we pay that debt. Minho could barely believe what he was hearing. Hyejin, is that really you? Hello, old friend, Hyejin replied, her voice warm despite the situation. I told you we pay our debts. All vessels, the human is under our protection. Anyone who harms him will answer to all of us. The Krovik interceptor tried to flee. It did not get far. 3 Havran frigates disabled it with precise weapons fire. The interceptor drifted helplessly in space. Now, Hyejin said, her voice turning cold, let us discuss the Krovik fleet that is attacking innocent people. The Allied armada turned as one toward the Krovik fleet surrounding New Sol. The Kroviks had numbers on their side. But the Allies had something more powerful. They had purpose. They had unity. And they were very, very angry. Admiral Vrekoth commanded the Krovik Dominion fleet from his massive battleship. He was experienced, ruthless, and confident. The attack on New Sol was going perfectly. The human colony would fall within hours. Then 300 unknown ships appeared on his sensors. Report, he demanded. Who are they? His tactical officer checked the sensor readings. They are merchant ships, cargo vessels, and light warships from multiple species. No major military fleet signatures. They appear to be independent traders. Admiral Vrekoth laughed. Traders? They dare challenge the Krovik Dominion? This will be amusing. Ignore them. Continue the bombardment of the colony. But the Allied fleet did not wait politely. They attacked immediately. Terex merchant ships released thousands of small drones. The drones swarmed forward like angry insects, overwhelming the Krovik point defense systems. Krovik gunners tried to shoot them down, but there were too many. The drones attached themselves to Krovik ships and began disrupting their systems. Quilani engineering vessels fired specialized pulse beams. The beams did not destroy Krovik ships, but they disabled their shield generators. Suddenly, dozens of Krovik warships found themselves vulnerable. The Havran frigates attacked like predators. They were small and fast, darting between the larger Krovik vessels, targeting weapons batteries with incredible precision. Every shot counted. Every shot hit its target. The Velcran heavy cruisers formed the backbone of the assault. They coordinated the chaotic attack, directing ships to where they were needed most. Heejin's voice rang out across the Allied communications, calm and commanding. Tarek's wing, focus on the left flank. Quilani teams, disable those battleships. Havrin squadrons, protect the colony's surface. Admiral Vrekoth was no longer laughing. What is happening? Why are we losing ships to merchants? They are using unconventional tactics, his tactical officer explained. Our ships are designed to fight military vessels, not swarms of drones and surgical strikes. They are exploiting every weakness in our formations. Then adapt. Destroy them. But adapting was easier said than done. The Allied fleet fought with a coordination that seemed impossible. 12 different species, hundreds of different ship designs all working together perfectly. They communicated constantly, covered each other's weaknesses, and struck where the Kroviks were most vulnerable. Meanwhile, a Velcran boarding team had reached the Defiant Hope. They brought repair equipment and medical supplies. Minho met them at the airlock, still dazed by everything happening. Minho, the team leader said, we are here to rescue you. Please come with us to the Det's honor. Heejin wants to see you. What about the colonists in my cargo hold? We will transfer them to safety. All of them, come. Minho was brought aboard Heejin's heavy cruiser. The bridge was massive, filled with sophisticated equipment and crew members working efficiently. In the center stood Heejin. She looked older, more confident, more powerful than the scared merchant Minho had met 15 years ago. But when she saw him, she smiled warmly. Hello, Minho, it has been too long. Heejin, Minho said, still trying to process everything. You came. All of you came. I don't understand. We owe you a debt. Velcrans always pay their debts. But there are 300 ships out there. They cannot all be Velcran. They are not, Heejin agreed. They are Terex, Kalani, Havrin, and many others. They are species you helped over the years. Word spread that you were in danger. They came because you showed them kindness when nobody else would. Taijin approached. He wore the uniform of a Velcran commander now, decorated with medals and honor markings. Brother, he said, using the Velcran term for a close friend. It is good to see you again. Taijin, you look well. I owe you my life, we all do. Now let us finish saving yours. Minho looked at the tactical display showing the battle. The Allied fleet was winning, but the Krovik fleet still had numbers. And there was another problem. The colony's defense platforms, Minho said. They were disabled in the first attack. If we could reactivate them, we could catch the Kroviks in a crossfire. Heejin studied the tactical display. Can it be done? I know the colony's defense network. I delivered the equipment for those platforms 2 years ago. The control center is on the planet's surface. If we can reach it and restore power, the platforms will come online. Taijin smiled. Then we will reach it. I will lead a ground team. Minho, will you guide us? Try to stop me. A strike team was assembled quickly. Taijin brought 20 Velcran soldiers. Quilani engineers joined them with technical equipment. Havrin warriors volunteered to provide heavy firepower, and Minho went with them, despite Jiwan's protests in his earpiece. They took a fast transport ship down to the planet's surface. The colony was damaged but not destroyed. Krovik ground forces had landed and were searching for survivors. The strike team had to fight their way through. The Havrin warriors led the assault, their heavy weapons clearing paths through Krovik soldiers. The Velcrans provided covering fire with impressive accuracy. Minho guided them through the colony's streets, knowing shortcuts and safe passages from his previous visits. They reached the defense control center. It was heavily guarded. A dozen Krovik soldiers defended the entrance. We cannot waste time on a long fight, Taijin said. We need to get inside quickly. One of the Havrin warriors, a massive creature covered in natural armor, stepped forward. Then we will not fight long. The Havrin charged directly at the Krovik position. Energy weapons fired at him, but his armor absorbed most of the damage. He crashed into the Krovik line like a living battering ram. The other warriors followed, and within seconds the entrance was clear. The Quilani engineers rushed inside with Minho. The control center systems were damaged but not destroyed. The engineers worked quickly, repairing connections and rerouting power. How long? Taijin asked, standing guard at the entrance. 5 minutes, the lead engineer responded. Maybe less, we may not have 5 minutes. More Kroviks are coming. Minho worked alongside the engineers, his hands moving quickly over the control panels. He knew this system. He had watched it being installed. He knew its weaknesses and its strengths. Outside, the sound of weapons fire grew louder. The Kroviks were attacking in force now, trying to retake the control center. 3 minutes, the engineer said. Work faster, Taejun called back. We are running out of ammunition. The defense systems came online with a deep hum. Lights flickered across the control panels. Minho pressed the final activation sequence. Got it! The platforms are active. In orbit, the massive defense platforms powered up. Their railgun batteries and missile launchers locked onto the Krovik fleet. Admiral Vrakoth saw them activate on his sensors. No, he whispered. The platforms fired. Hundreds of projectiles and missiles filled space. The Krovik fleet, already struggling against the Allied armada, now faced a devastating crossfire. Ships exploded. Others tried to retreat but found their escape routes blocked by Velkran cruisers. Admiral Vrakoth's flagship took concentrated fire from 3 Havran frigates and the Det's Honor. His shields failed. His engines died. His ship drifted helplessly in space. All ships retreat, he ordered. Retreat immediately, but it was too late. The Krovik fleet broke apart. Some ships surrendered. Others managed to escape into hyperspace. More than half were destroyed or captured. The battle was over. New Sol was saved. On the planet's surface, Minho and the strike team emerged from the control center. Around them, Krovik soldiers were surrendering to Allied forces. The sky above was clear of enemy ships. Taejun put a hand on Minho's shoulder. We did it, brother. Minho smiled tiredly. We did, thank you. All of you. No, Taejun said. Thank you. For everything. News of the Battle of New Sol spread across the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. Communication networks carried the story to every corner of known space. A Krovik Dominion fleet, over 200 warships strong, had been defeated by 300 merchant vessels and independent traders. But the real story was not about the battle itself. It was about why those 300 ships had come together. One human, one cargo pilot named Minho. Over 15 years he had helped countless beings without asking for anything in return. When he needed help, hundreds of species answered his call. They risked their lives for him because he had risked his life for them. The story resonated across the galaxy. It showed that kindness mattered, that helping others was not weakness but strength, that one person could make a difference. The Krovik Dominion was shocked by the loss. They had never lost an entire fleet before. More importantly, they had never faced such unified opposition from so many species. They retreated from several contested systems and agreed to a ceasefire. In systems the Kroviks had conquered, enslaved species began to rebel. They had seen what unity could achieve. If merchant vessels could defeat a Krovik fleet, perhaps freedom was possible after all. On New Sol, reconstruction began immediately. The Allied fleet stayed for several weeks, helping repair damage and restore order. Quilani engineers rebuilt destroyed buildings. Terex merchants brought food and supplies. Havrin warriors provided security. The Defiant Hope was repaired better than ever. Quilani engineers installed new engines, better shields, and improved weapon systems. When Minho protested that he could not afford such upgrades, they simply smiled and said it was a gift. Representatives from all the species that had answered Minho's call gathered in New Sol's capital. What started as a celebration of their victory became something much larger. A meeting, a discussion, a vision for the future. Yijin stood before the assembled representatives. We came together to help one person, she said. But in doing so, we proved something important. Different species can work together. We can protect each other. We can build something better than the empires that seek to dominate us. A Terex merchant asked, What are you proposing? An alliance, Yejin replied. Not an empire. Not a dominion. A coalition of free traders and independent worlds. We protect each other. We help each other. We prove that cooperation is stronger than conquest. What would we call this coalition? A Quilani engineer asked. The Free Traders Coalition, Haijin said, built on principles of mutual aid and honor. Every member is equal. Every voice matters. The representatives looked at each other. They had come from different worlds, different cultures, different histories, but they had fought together. They had won together. Maybe they could build something together. The vote was unanimous. The Free Traders Coalition was born. They offered Minho a leadership position. After all, the entire coalition existed because of him. But Minho refused as politely as he could. I am just a cargo pilot, he said. I am not a politician or a leader. I would probably make terrible decisions and accidentally start a war. You united dozens of species, Taejun pointed out. That seems like pretty good leadership to me. That was an accident, Minho insisted. I just helped people. I did not plan any of this, Hyejin smiled. That is exactly why you should lead. You do not seek power, you seek to help others. That is the kind of leader we need. After much discussion, they reached a compromise. Minho would serve as the coalition's ambassador. He would continue his work as an independent trader, but now he would represent the coalition's ideals wherever he went. He would be a symbol of what they stood for. Minho accepted reluctantly, knowing that refusing would insult everyone who had risked their lives for him. On his last night on New Seoul before departing, Minho and Hyejin sat together on a hill overlooking the colony. The city lights below were bright and beautiful, showing no signs of the recent battle. I still cannot believe you came, Minho said. 300 ships. For me. We came because 15 years ago you showed us that kindness exists in this galaxy, Hyejin replied. You risked your life for strangers. You asked for nothing in return. That kind of selflessness is rare, Minho. It deserves to be honored. I just did what I thought was right. Exactly. In a galaxy where most beings only care about themselves, you humans are different. You see strangers and you help them. You see injustice and you fight it. That is why the fleet came. Not just for you, but for what you represent. Minho was quiet for a moment.
Do you really think we can change things?
The Krovic Dominion is still out there. So are other empires that do not care about freedom or cooperation. We already have changed things, Hyejin said. The galaxy saw what happened here. They saw that unity is possible. They saw that kindness has power. Some will ignore that message, but others will remember it. And slowly, gradually, things will improve. She handed him a small object. It was a new honor token, but different from the one he had carried for 15 years. This one had symbols from all 12 species that had answered his call. This is not a debt token, Hyejin explained. It is a friendship token. It means you are family to all of us. Wherever you go, you will have friends. Wherever you go, you will be welcomed. Minho took the token carefully. It was warm in his hand, just like the first one had been. Thank you, Hyejin. For everything. Thank you, Minho, for showing us a better way. 6 months passed. The Free Traders Coalition grew rapidly. New species joined every week. Trade routes became safer. Pirates and criminals found it harder to operate when dozens of species cooperated to stop them. Minho returned to his routine as an independent trader. But now he flew under the coalition's banner. The Defiant Hope was recognized everywhere he went. People knew his name. They knew his story. Everywhere he traveled, he encountered beings whose lives had been touched by what happened at New Seoul. Some had been inspired to help others in their own communities. Some had joined the coalition themselves. Some simply thanked him for giving them hope. The galaxy was changing, slowly but surely. One day, Minho received a distress signal. An unknown vessel was in trouble, its engines failing, its life support systems critical. The location was dangerous in contested space where pirates operated freely. That is a trap, Ji-won warned. Pirates often use fake distress signals to lure ships into ambushes. We should ignore it and report it to coalition security. Minho studied the signal. It could be a trap, but it could also be a real distress call from someone who desperately needed help. Change course, he ordered. Take us to those coordinates. Minho, this is dangerous. Someone needs help, Ji-won. That is reason enough. Ji-won was silent for a moment. Then she said, You know, after everything that happened, I thought you might have learned to be more careful. But you are still the same person, still making bad decisions to help people. Are they really bad decisions if they turn out okay? That is terrible logic. Maybe, but it is my logic. The Defiant Hope turned toward the distress signal. Minho touched the friendship token hanging around his neck. He did not know if the signal was real or a trap. He did not know what he would find when he arrived, but he knew that if someone needed help, he would be there, because that was what humans did. They helped others, even strangers, even when it was dangerous. They showed kindness in a galaxy that often forgot what kindness meant. 15 years ago, Minho had helped 2 Velcrans on a trading station. That simple act had rippled across the galaxy, changing everything. He had no idea if this new decision would have similar consequences, but he knew that every act of kindness mattered. Every person helped was a seed planted, a connection made, a possibility created. Maybe nothing would come of it. Maybe everything would. The only way to find out was to keep trying. Keep helping. Keep showing the galaxy what humanity stood for. The defiant hope flew through the darkness of space, heading toward someone who needed help. Behind Minho, across the galaxy, the Free Traders Coalition continued to grow. Species that had once been strangers now worked together. Beings that had once fought now cooperated. All because one human refused to walk away from people in need. All because kindness, in the end, was stronger than any weapon. All because when a human once assisted strangers, those strangers remembered, and years later when that human called for help, an entire fleet answered. That was the power of humanity. That was their strength. Not conquest or domination, but compassion and cooperation. The end.